Yeah, I'd agree with that, Jack, as well. I think it's very much around what's that case for change. Yeah, so it starts with the case for change. Certainly from my experience, and there are different drivers for that, and sometimes a combination of those drivers as well. It could be cost. It could be an outcome and an experience that you're looking to drive there. Could be that sustainability around decarbonisation, as we move forward, the social value elements to all of that. So it's really being really clear about, what's the goals that you're setting yourself, what's that case for change, the ambition, the engagement and the communication is critical for that alignment as well, to bring everyone, along on the journey. We have very similar experience within the financial services around partnerships and bringing other partners on board to support that, and the expertise that we need to deliver some of those technology changes as we move forward. But the alignment of business, business outcomes, I would say, and what you want to achieve, and that technology and how they intertwine and support each other. Yeah, one cannot do without the other is really key, and bringing that together and having that roadmap of what you're going to do. And I think that's talked about before, and I think Jack's just said it as well, is, be careful about that ambition as well. Take on those successes and take it on in the right way. So it's not big chunks, it's the smaller chunks to bring people along on the journey with you as you go through that. So, I think that whole, alignment, communication and engagement is so key, and be really, really clear about what you're looking to achieve, and how you want to achieve that as well, across your eco landscape as you go through, your transformation.
And I think from my perspective, both running services and also delivering a healthcare platform, let's be really clear about what data we can act on. And what data we need to move around the system, so that our clinical teams and actually our patients, so the end users, will have a use for some of that data and can act on that in terms of their healthcare self-management, and potentially carers as well. So we've just done a piece of interoperability work in Lincolnshire, where we are providing information that's going to be useful into a shared care record that will have access from multiple users. So not just the healthcare system, the local authority, potentially carers and patients themselves. So thinking very carefully about what data needs to be seen by what people, or will be helpful to be seen by what people, and not to fill a GP's inbox or the admin teams in the GP practice inbox with stuff that actually isn't going to be helpful for the journey of care, just because we can. So let's be selective, and let's be really careful about the data.
Fabulous, thanks. Similar sort of question, when you talk about evolving the people model and how you bring people on the journey, whether that's the patients, the clinicians, or the different partnership enterprises, again, what are the keys there? What are the things that you see that really make that people journey work, in terms of leading them through the change, keeping them on board, keeping them motivated towards where you want to go with your ambition and your vision?
Shall I kick that one off? So for me, it's don't make assumptions about what the win is for the partner that you're working with. Ask them. So yes, of course, improving patient care is going to be in everybody's wish list, but it might not be the top limit, the top priority, because patient care could be really good already. This might be about saving clinician time or automating a process. So if you are aware, when you're deploying change, what the wins are for the person that you're working with, then you can make sure that you can guide the deployment to meet those goals and objectives. So being explicit about that. Sometimes it's about cost saving, and that's okay if that's the case, providing we don't have a detriment to care. So yeah, be clear about what the wins are, and then that helps you on the journey faster.
I think those wins and what's important to people have changed over time as well. Well, I think with the workload pressures that our clinical colleagues are facing in particular, and with the inability for us to to recruit enough capacity, regardless of how much money you might throw at a problem. That sort of productivity, that efficiency, that work-life balance piece becomes as really shot up the agenda for clinical teams. So stuff that makes people's lives practically easier, that allows them to do things in a less resource intensive way, I think are becoming more and more really the top line for what people are wanting from their digital solutions at the moment. I mean, I've found it really useful to talk to the teams, talk to our organisations about applying the same lens that you would apply as a consumer to a different sector of the economy. So you can track a flight in real time across the Atlantic. You do all of your banking and all of your shopping online. But if your GP suspects you have cancer, they'll say, "I'm going to refer you to the hospital. It'll be in 2 weeks, and you'll get a letter that confirms when your appointment is." And you leave that room, and you can't go onto a platform to check whether someone's picked that up. You can't track your journey through that system. You go home and you hope that someone's going to send you a letter, and that's that's massively different to any other industry that handles millions of contacts like we do.
Yeah, I think certainly from my perspective, bringing people along, whether it's the end customer or whether it's the employee, I think key is to get them involved. Yeah, actually for me, it's about empowerment. Get them involved in your vision and your ambition and your goals and that journey, because they are the users. Yeah, whether it's a customer, a clinician, an employee, they're the users. They know the pain, they know the experience. And actually, they come up with some brilliant ideas. Create a platform for them to get involved, and then they've really got something to play on the pitch. Once they're on the pitch, you've really got a strong part to play, and you find then that they're really engaged. They want to bring their ideas to the table. They can see their ideas coming through. So for me, that's about that empowerment, creating that platform, empowerment, trusting them as well. Yeah. Trusting them to come up with the right ideas, actually trusting them to come up with solutions. And how do we resolve some of these challenges, whether it's through the technology and IA and automation or whatever that might be. And actually, as a leader, for me, it's about setting them up for success to make that happen. Yeah, because that success will breed success. And if you set them up for success and give them the right platform, the power of what you can get is really inspiring then for bringing people, along that journey. So for me, I think that's really key for that people engagement.
Brilliant. Thanks, Joe. That's fabulous. And that whole idea of getting people engaged, particularly we know where there is change, giving people more control and say over what happens in that situation when there's uncertainty, is very, very empowering and a great way to keep people motivated on the journey. So maybe a slightly leading question here, but what do you think the industry and healthcare might be missing in their leadership approach at the moment to digital transformation?
I think there's a couple of things that stick out to me, Will, straight away. I think we as a public sector are not particularly good at articulating our problems. So I think we tend to tender for products rather than say, actually, we're really struggling, or we've got opportunities or challenges in these key areas of the business. We'd like to explore with the right partners how we can solve those, or look at what other industries are doing to solve similar problems. If we've got 10,000 nurses that drive across the patch, but I'm sure they're not coordinated as half as efficiently as the DPD drivers that drive across the patch would be, and we lose a lot of time to that. So I think that we're not particularly good at that. I think that the market similarly is hugely saturated. I think I'd probably get 15 emails a day for different products, different solutions, and I think that as a purchaser, that's incredibly difficult to navigate, and there isn't that really good bridge of communication between those two dimensions, and I think that makes it really difficult. You've got quite limited discretionary investment capability, and I think so you've got to be really quite careful where you put it, and the market is hugely saturated and does make that quite difficult. So those are two of the challenges that jump out to me, really.
Nadine, maybe you go next on this, because I know Joe's going to come with a perspective from outside industry and healthcare. So maybe Nadine, what are your thoughts on, what might be missing in the leadership approach to this at the moment?
I think I would echo what Jack's saying in terms of the transfer of knowledge and insight from other industries. I think some of the language that we're using, people are afraid of using language like productivity, and whilst we talk about cost improvement, we don't talk about saving. I think some of the language we could slightly more commercialise, but with a view to considering the time saving and the ability of that time to be better used for patients who need more care and attention, or better used for a work-life balance, or what have you. So that productivity ethos could be quite helpful in terms of some of the leadership language. But you've got to be very sensitive to that. I mean, particularly at the moment, we have workforces right the way across the health system under immense pressure. And sometimes working so hard, it's a wood for the trees situation. Can't see the wood for the trees. So yeah, being sensitive about language, but actually being future focused about language and saying actually we have capability elsewhere that you take for granted in your day-to-day life. So I really like those examples that Jack's given. I shall be using those in the future if I may steal them.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Nadine. Joe, I'm going to ask you to come in a moment. We've had quite an interesting question that builds on this, I think. So around the idea of learning from other sectors, what have you seen as quick wins that help give improved patient experience without also adding food and learning curve of clinicians? Is it about automation and decisioning, or do they have simpler, quicker ideas to implement? Any thoughts, seeing as that question came in from after what you were saying, Jack, any thoughts on that around quick wins that aren't necessarily a big burden to the clinicians?
I don't. It's quick's always a challenge in my sector. I think one of the one we're really focused on at the moment is that customer service dimension. I think that's the bit where we can make quite huge difference. So the fact that we have clinicians all across all across our services that write letters to each other, that have to ring each other to chase test results, or and that a patient can't access all of that information is hugely burdensome for our clinical teams, without necessarily adding any value to the patient journey. So I think having something that bridges that divide, that takes a lot of that administrative time out of the clinical profession, I think is going to add real value. That's one of our big focuses. I think we've had quite a lot of success with we have a sort of third-party virtual consultation platform that allows you to sort of lift out a big chunk of digital activity from your core clinical teams across the service to a central model of banks of clinicians that sit across the country. And I think that's been that was very quick and easy for us to do. We work with a partner that we brought over from Scandinavia to do that, and actually that's been quite quick to implement, and actually has lifted out a lot of work from clinicians. And I think the point in the chat's absolutely right. It is that workload piece that people are fanatically worried about, and rightly so, because the demands on our professionals are huge at the moment.